doctor.
Be whoever you need to be with Vital.
It really is a no-brainer that nutrition is key when it comes to managing and boosting our energy levels. And one of the key aspects of eating for sustained energy is the glycemic index concept. I know you've heard about it, but do you understand it? Andrea, help us out here.
Well, glycemic index, or the GI value of a food, is specifically ascribed to carbohydrate-rich foods. And the values range from 0 to 100. High GI foods result in instant energy released into your bloodstream in the form of glucose, and low GI foods result in sustained energy release.
Okay, Celine, which would you say is better? I mean, my gut feel says slow release is always better.
Absolutely correct, because if you're wanting sustained energy, the same amount of energy at 6 p.m. as you have at 6 a.m., then slower releasing or low GI foods is the way to go.
And how do you determine GI value?
Well, GI value is tested after consuming a certain portion size of a carbohydrate food and to see their response in your blood sugar levels. In South Africa, we use the international standards.
Okay. Now, we talked about sustained energy, and I think that's the sort of holy grail, you know, energy that just doesn't die off. You've co-authored a book on fast food for sustained energy, Celine. What's the secret here?
It's not really a secret. A lot of it is common sense. Unfortunately, though, we're so busy and hectic that we don't really make the correct choices. And it's not that difficult to make the correct choices if you have an understanding of concepts like the glycemic index.
All right, so we're getting an understanding, thanks to Andrea. There are foods on the table that, you know, most people would not know the difference between high GI and low GI. Help us out. What are the tips here?
A general rule that works for most foods is ask yourself, has this food really been processed? If it hasn't, if it's in more of a natural state, chances are it's going to be slower releasing and better for you. There are, of course, some exceptions, right, Andrea?
Such as, Andrea?
Well, I think the potato is definitely one that's often spoken about.
Spuddy. All right.
Potatoes happen to be a high GI food. Okay. And sweet potatoes, which we think is very similar, is a low GI food. But sweet potatoes contain different types of fibres, which result in the slower release of the carbohydrates.
If you bring fibre or introduce fibre into your diet, does that take a high GI food and create a bit of a low GI scenario? Could it?
It does that as long as you're using the right type of fibre, which is soluble fibre. So soluble fibre would be fibre found in legumes, so beans and chickpeas and butter beans and lentils and oats or oat bran.
All right. Andrea, standard meal for South Africans, bread.
Yes.
High GI, low GI, help us out there.
In general, the seed breads and the ones with the highest fibre content would tend to be the lower GI.
Okay, I see we've got sugar and honey there. Now, I know that's probably a trick question. Which one is higher, which one is lower, Celine?
Well, I really think it's a good example because a lot of us might think that honey is more natural, but if it's commercial honey, it's actually much faster releasing than regular table sugar. So regular sugar has a GI value of 65, it makes it intermediate. So for somebody, for instance, who has diabetes or is wanting to manage their energy, they're better off adding a teaspoon of sugar onto their bowl of muesli, let's say, versus regular honey.
Okay, you got a lot of people going, really? I didn't believe that. Andrea, 2-minute noodles. I mean, what is that doing there? That's definitely high GI. Eh?
Well, looking at carbohydrate food specifically, it depends on the extent to which it has been processed. Okay. And once again, you do get low GI pastas and noodles, so it's always good to look out on the labelling of foods for that.
You've always been strong on that, hey? Look and read the label. Let's move over to portion size, because I know in the book that you refer to, the South Africans, they just have far too bigger portions, not so?
Absolutely, and most of us are eating out at some point, perhaps even on a daily basis, and we're not aware that the portions we're being presented with are actually far more than what our bodies need. And most of us should be managing our kilojoule intake because we need to be managing our weight.
Of course. So this is a classic example. You're comparing a whole bunch of slices of bread to a standard muffin that you get at a coffee store.
Let's say, yeah, you go grab your skinny cappuccino along with a muffin. You're actually getting in just under 150 grams of carbohydrate, and that's what 150 grams of carbohydrate looks like, 10 slices of bread.
That is frightening. And Andrea, 3 chickens, butter, I mean, what's the comparison here?
You know, looking at portion sizes, a typical takeaway meal, if there's 3 pieces of chicken and a portion of chips, that's more or less the amount of fat that you would get from the chips and the chicken. So it's really important to look at portion control and be realistic and logical about it.
Yeah. You guys make so much sense, you really do. Biggest sense of all is breakfast, obviously. We know that's the most important meal of the day. How would I eat a healthy breakfast? And give me a good example of what a healthy breakfast is. And I know you're going to say a smoothie, so what goes into the smoothie?
Well, the ingredients of one of my favourite breakfasts, muesli, low GI specifically, fresh fruit, and yogurt, which is high in protein.
Brilliant. Well, let's do that.
So,
Give me that
about
apple.
half an apple.
All right.
So,
some dairy.
Right. Good. Okay, and what kind of dairy?
Well, milk and yogurt.
All right, good. There we go. Fantastic. Where's your muesli?
Well, there's the low GI muesli.
All right.
Rich in fibre and healthy fats.
Got nuts in there as well, which is great.
And also a small portion of peanut butter for that lovely flavour.
Okay. And some of the fats that you talked about. Brilliant. And that's it. Whip that up and taste it, really. All right, there you go. Who would like to try the first bit of smoothie? Andrea,
I would love to try.
Brilliant. There we go. Girls, thank you so much for that amazing insight.
Thank
Here's
you.
to good energy and a good way to start the day.
Sustained energy.
Sustained energy, you're so right. Speaking of which, this recipe and many more in Fast Food for Sustained Energy, so pick up your copy. You can also win one of 10 of them, which we're giving away right now, so stay tuned for that. If you want to have sufficient energy throughout the day, you have to start by eating right. And the right way to eat for sustained energy is eating low GI foods.
Be whoever you need to be with Vital.
I wanna live the best life.